Good day, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Girl Be Selfish podcast, where we are talking about all things self care from mind, body, soul, and spirit. I'm super excited. As you know, I've been doing a series on the authors of the Girl Be Selfish Anthology Project. I was blessed to get put together an anthology project of 20 different authors who are telling their different stories about self care, what their journeys are like, and just offering tips to you all as you are listening to the podcast, as you are reading the book on how you can thrive in your self care journey. And so, listen, as I say every podcast, if you have not gotten the book, what are you waiting for? I just don't understand at this point what you are waiting for. Make sure that you go ahead and you get your copy today. I promise you it's going to be life changing. But today I'm super excited because I have one of my esteemed authors with me today. She was modest in putting her name in, but she is actually Dr. Joyce Mallory. And I'm super excited to have Dr. Joyce Mallory on with us today. So, Dr. Joyce, can you introduce yourself to the people? Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Oh, hi everyone, and hello, and I'm glad to be here. I'm happy for this opportunity. I'm Joyce Mallory, Dr. Joyce Mallory, and I am a lifelong learner. Um, I came from a long line of people who love to read. My parents, especially my mother and my aunt, we always had books in front of us. So I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm a retired school administrator. I taught for 20 years in from K all the way up to high school. Then I became a school principal in urban area, which gave me about 33 years in the school district. But
Wow.
with my love of learning, when I retired, I went back to school, but this time I went to seminary.
Wow.
So it was just a long desire that I had to just know more about who I was. And I think that was my part or my journey to knowing more about who myself.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
I did write two books, and my first book was all about my journey through um, trauma, childhood
mhm,
trauma,
mhm.
onto how I ended up. And I dedicated it to my children. I'm a
Yeah.
grandmother and a great grandmother. I have
Mhm.
four grandchildren and I
That's
have four
amazing.
great grandchildren. And I
That's
wanted them
amazing.
to know that life is not always easy, but there's joy in the journey. So,
Yeah.
one of the things that I have done is I want to share my
Mhm.
experience with other people.
Yeah.
I want them to know that, yes, there are ups and downs, but if you look to who you are, you remember who you are, and you remember where you come from, then you're able to thrive.
Mhm.
Sometimes, we want to please others, but we have to also be able to please ourselves.
Yeah.
We need to know who we are, what our gifts are. The Bible tells us to use our gifts,
Yeah.
and we are we have been given those gifts to and skills and talents not to make us prosperous, but to help others. So
Yeah.
that's one of
Yeah.
the things that I want to do.
I
I
love
really
that.
want to share my experience with others and also listen to other people's experiences and encourage them to go on. It's
Yeah.
not all about being perfect. It's about getting it done
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
changing our mindset.
Yeah.
I go into a lot of detail about my mindset in my book, but
Okay.
I'm going to be probably writing a few more chapters to it because I continue to grow and
Yeah.
seek knowledge. And one of the things that I wanted to do, I don't want to have any regrets. I've read
Yeah.
about older people who are bitter and um, who never reached their goals, who were um, set back in some kind of way. They maybe lack confidence or finances, but you don't need a whole lot of money to do what
Correct.
you desire to do. So
Correct.
I would really like to encourage people
I
to
love
seek
that.
to to seek and refurbish and go back to the goals, go back to those gifts that they
Yeah.
had a long time ago,
Yeah.
and to
Dr.
seek.
Joyce, I'm going to interject real quick because you're saying so many good things. And for the people who are just listening, and I hope I'm
Mhm.
not overstepping, can you just let the audience know how old you are?
Okay, I'm grateful that I'm 83 years old, and I continue to want to go on.
And
Uh,
we celebrate that. And the reason why I wanted you to tell everyone how your age, because I have watched you over the last couple of years, right? And you're not afraid to take the classes. You're not afraid to write the chapters in the anthology. And even at your age, like you said, you're still learning, right? And not just learning, but learning different gifts, learning how to be a speaker, learning how to get my message out there. And I think that's so admirable because many people reach a certain age and then they feel like life is over. They feel like there's no more that I have to offer the world. And what
mhm.
you're saying is that I have so much more in me and I'm going to pour it all out. And so I love the fact that not only have you written your own books, but you have been doing things like joining anthologies because what you're doing is leaving a legacy. You are
Yes,
letting your story be known.
yes,
And I think that is so admirable of you. And it's convicting, right? It's
yes,
convicting to us younger ones
yes.
who take it for granted,
Mhm.
who take for granted the time we have, and like you said, education and stuff like that. So, one, Dr. Joyce, I just want to say thank you for being an example.
Thank you for
Thank you for
having me.
being an example for us young ones, but
Mhm.
also for being an example for those who are getting older in age to know that it's not over till it's over. You
Right.
still have more in you and you
Mm.
still have more legacy to leave in the world. So I just want to stop and pause and say kudos to you and thank you, thank you, thank you
You're
for
welcome.
what you have done in education and being an educator, and how you're teaching us now without even talking because you were teaching some lessons and you're not even talking. So thank you
Okay.
for that.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for that. Thank you for
You're
that.
welcome.
So tell us what your, well, one, what's your definition of self care?
My definition of self care is knowing who you are,
Mm-hmm.
knowing your background, uh, being having a spiritual connection,
Mm,
because I believe that the soul is the intermediary between the body, the physical, and the spiritual. And
mm-hmm.
we're constantly battling in the soul.
Mm,
And so, therefore, we have to be in control of ourselves, the way we think, our mindsets, and also because, you know, there are people and there are places and events that don't really want you to succeed. They sometimes, the way you think is your worst enemy. So
mm,
I really need, uh, for me, I needed to be more aware of who I was
mm.
and sometimes reflect on how far I've come. And I've
Yeah.
come a long way. And
Mm-hmm.
so, therefore, that's one of the things that I wrote in my book. But I don't want to have regrets. I don't want to be bitter because I
Yeah.
didn't do everything that I wanted to do,
Yeah.
everything that was a possibility in my life. So,
Yeah.
therefore, um, I don't see I don't see the glass half full. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
half empty. I see it half
Mm-hmm.
full. And
Yeah.
so I'm filling up my glass. You know, that bucket list,
I
my
love
bucket list
that.
is getting longer. I've been
I love
able to
that.
travel, I've been able to
Yeah.
study, and I've been able to really pursue the things that I love.
I love
So
that.
that's why I called it no regrets. I don't,
Yeah.
when I go home to be with the Lord, I don't want to be angry. And I've seen some people, some older people who are angry because they didn't fulfill their desires, their goals, their
Yeah.
hearts. There's such a thing as being heart content. And
Mm-hmm.
so, therefore, Those things are important. But
Mhm.
being heart content means that you have to be selfish. You got to think
Exactly.
about yourself. You got to
Gotcha.
think about those goals. When you have those goals and they're not perfect, but you've got them done,
Mhm.
you can go on and encourage your children to do that,
100%.
because they
100%.
have also, remember that they have some reflection on, should I be doing this? Is this
Right.
really for me? If
Mhm.
you really have a desire to do it, you're going to find a way to do
You'll
it.
find a way to
And
do it.
it doesn't have to be perfect.
Mhm.
Those were some of the things I learned, like in education.
Mhm.
Education with teachers, people look to them to be perfect, and even our children,
Right.
classroom teachers look to us to be, teachers to be perfect. But that is not a selfish type of mindset,
Yes.
because there's no one perfect. You're going to make slip ups. And when you
Mhm.
do make mistakes, you go back to the drawing board. Yes,
100%.
you look to see, well, what did I do wrong and what can I do better? You
Absolutely.
put it
So,
behind
Dr.
you.
Joyce, when I hear you saying self care for you is living out loud.
Yes.
Living out loud, doing the bucket list things,
Hmm.
traveling in the way I want to travel, whatever the desires that have been in my heart to do, going out there and doing them and getting them done so that when God does decide to call you home, you can go contently knowing that I lived my best life.
Yes. Yes.
I
That's it.
lived the life that
That's
I
I
wanted to live.
wanted to live.
I
Right.
lived the life I wanted to live, not
Yes.
what gets imposed on us by society, not what gets imposed on us by family, but the life that I actually wanted to live.
Yes.
I
That's correct.
love that definition of self care, to live out loud. For you who are listening to the podcast today, I want you to take that as a nugget. Part of your self care journey is to live out loud, live out the desires of your heart, because
Hmm.
the reality is Dr. Joyce has been blessed with 83 years so far, right? The reality is not everybody's even blessed with that many years on this earth, right? And not to make this morbid in any way, but younger and younger people are leaving this earth. You don't know when that day of time will come, as cliche as it is, but whenever it does come, are you content because you've lived out the desires of your heart, or have you spent the years that you have been given stressed out about everything,
Yes.
mad at everybody,
Hmm.
holding grudges over
Hmm.
stuff, right?
Hmm.
Have you operated in love? Have you operated in forgiveness? Because truly we don't know. So thank you for that, Dr. Joyce, because I think that is important. When we
That's
leave this earth, being able to leave with no regrets.
and that's one of the key words that you said was forgiveness. You
Mm,
have to learn to forgive.
yeah.
And even though sometimes things get difficult, and you have to be, first thing, part of being selfish is to forgive yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And in my book, in the article, I said, you're not responsible for the trauma, the
Mm-hmm.
childhood trauma that you experienced.
Mm-hmm.
You will remember it, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes what you have to do in order to proceed and continue with life is forgive those people, go back to those events, reflect, and go
Mm-hmm.
back to those events that occurred. And
Yeah.
remember, we are not perfect. They did what they knew how to do, and you have to forgive them, because
100%.
forgiveness makes you live longer.
Yeah.
You don't forgive a person, that means that it it festers inside your soul. It
Mm-hmm.
affects you spiritually. It affects
Mm-hmm.
you physically. So I tell people that kindness is important, but
Mm-hmm.
kindness is tantamount to forgiveness. You have to be able to forgive
To
in
forgive.
order to be kind.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's so important.
They work hand in hand. I love that, Dr. Joyce. So, really quickly, tell the audience the name of your chapter, and then don't give it all away because we
Okay.
want them to read it, but give us some snippets about what your chapter is about in the anthology.
Okay. Well, my chapter is called No Regrets, a New Mindset. And a mindset is being mindful of who you are and knowing that where you came from, using those experiences and those directional changes to grow, um, to grow as a new person, to grow as experiencing new outcomes, and also to set some goals and standards for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be perfect goals, just a goal in order to survive, a goal in order to, um, if you have something coming up, like with me writing books and doing different types of things, like I enjoy design and texture and things like that. That was one of the things that I wanted to do uh, earlier in life. I wanted to be a
Mm-hmm.
designer. I loved art.
Nice.
I loved using my hands and things like that. And I found that I could do that as a teacher because I taught little ones. So I was teaching
Mm-hmm.
them the joy of just not always just experiencing touch, the senses, putting things together.
Yeah.
It just a sense of discovery. But
Mm-hmm.
my article is in kind of traces back some of my history and
Mm-hmm.
talks about the different changes in direction um, that I experience. We always get changes in direction. So sometimes those changes are devastating.
Yeah.
Sometimes those changes just run so smoothly. So,
Mm-hmm.
how do you get through that? You have to be aware of who you are. Yes, I didn't do so well on this, but I can go back to the drawing board
Mm.
and I can. What's wrong with reading the chapter over again? What's wrong with taking your book and making some additional notes? What is
Right.
wrong with asking a question of your professor or your teacher? Uh, you know, I've seen so many children be afraid to ask questions,
Mm.
and asking a question is the way you learn. But
Yeah.
to get back to my book, I there are different inflection points that I
Mm-hmm.
experienced, and so sometimes the inflection point is going to bring you, it's going to stabilize you, or it's going to move you on. And so moving on means that there's a change in direction.
Yeah.
So there is going to be a change. Be able to accept it and take control of the change. All
Mm-hmm.
right. What do I want to change? How do I want to change it? Why do I want to change it? Those
Mm-hmm.
things are important. And yeah, I know many times we don't want to write it down, but you need to write it down. You need to
Yeah.
record it so that you
Mm-hmm.
can address it.
Mm-hmm.
So many times I have like a little small book, and it's like it's not even the size of an index card, but it's
Mm-hmm.
wire bound. And I write down. I may be reading, or I may be doing something, and all of a sudden something will come to my mind, and I'll write it down so I can go
Mm-hmm.
back and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't always leave um, information to memory because
I love that. I think that, I think that's so
it does
important,
not work.
right? Having being able to, because sometimes, right, in those moments you come up with your most brilliant thoughts.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
And then you're like, oh, I got to remember that later. And you
Right.
don't, right?
No.
And
Mm-mm.
so just having that, having a book with you, or, if you're a person of technology, being able to take the notes app on your phone and just jot a note down or something,
Right.
so that when you have those, I guess I'll call it moments of genius,
Hmm.
that you're able to go back to it and reflect on what it is, because it
Right.
makes a difference. It makes a difference. Dr. Joyce, let me ask you something. When you say you named your chapter No Regrets, a New Mindset, how does mindset for you wrap into self-care? I think it's an important connection. So I would love for you to explain to the audience how mindset for you, having a new mindset, affects your self-care.
Well, the number one thing is my age. I find that even though I'm older, and I'm finding that there's some challenges, physical
Mm-hmm.
challenges, and mental challenges, that I still have something left there's still something that I can do. And
Mm,
so what I'm doing now is I'm looking at sharing expertise or sharing little nuggets with people, um, so that I am making a contribution to their
mm,
lives. And
yeah.
so that's my mindset, to always, I don't want to regret not saying something of encouragement or giving some information that someone could use. So
Mm-hmm.
my mindset is that I am still able to make a substantial contribution to society. That's
Mm,
my new mindset. Just because I'm older doesn't mean that I have no value. I have value. And what I have, I'm going to share with others. That's my
mm.
new mindset.
I
And
love
so,
that.
some, even if, I know that my spiritual, one of my spiritual uh, um, areas is helps. So I help wherever I can. I do
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of skills. I have a lot of talents, and I have a lot of gifts. I don't want those gifts to be null and void. I'm going
Yeah.
to transfer them by giving people information. So this
Yeah.
is what that's my new mindset.
I love
So
that.
that's why I saw this opportunity to just get some information out to people, to the reader, to encourage them, to let
Mm-hmm.
them know that they have value. And we don't have to be, you, you have to uh, honor who you are. All
Yes.
right. So
Yes.
I've taken a lot of courses and things like that, and that has just increased my knowledge about who I am, and
Mm-hmm.
it's made me stronger, and it's made me more self-confident. you know
Mm-hmm.
I remember as a child, and as I was growing up, everyone said I was an introvert. There's nothing wrong with being an introvert. Everybody who sees the word introvert and says the word, they have a negative connotation. Do you know introverts are the most creative individuals in the
Mm-hmm.
world,
Mm-hmm.
because they take the time to separate themselves from the group. They're
Uh-huh.
different,
Yep.
and they can be problem solvers. That's what
And
I am.
detailed
I've
oriented.
always thought of
Yep.
myself as a problem solver. When I
Mm-hmm.
developed the daycare for my church, I saw it as a problem, solving a problem. I, I fulfilled a need, and
Yes.
it was a great need, which it lasted for 6 years, and it
Yes.
it went very well. And I think that was one of the best times, best transitional and changing directions in my life. I loved being in the classroom. I loved being with the children, and especially the little ones, because they're
Mm-hmm.
so receptive.
Yes.
So
Yes. I love
my
that.
mindset is to always make some kind of contribution to society, to
Yeah.
individuals that I work with. That's my
Yes.
mindset.
Yes.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to stop until
Yeah.
someone tells me to stop, and I can't.
I hear, and you know what, Dr. Joyce, like I said, I've watched you, and that's exactly what you're doing. Like, it's
Mhm,
what you have to give, you're going to give. And
mhm,
so I love, love, love that. And I love, as I think about, as you're talking about self-care and living without regrets and having a new mindset, you have a very altruistic kind of viewpoint of self-care. Like for you, I'm taking care of myself as I'm able to give of myself, as
mhm.
I'm able to be a blessing, as I'm able to educate others, as I learn, I give, right? So, what I see almost is this constant flow, right? It's like you take the learning, you pour it into so that you can give it back. So that
Yes.
you can give it back to the world. And
Mhm.
your self care journey has been this cycle of getting all that I can get so that I can give it. I
Yes.
can give it to those who may not necessarily have access to the education, right? I can give
Yes.
it to those who you have influence over specifically, right? You have a specific tribe of people who listen to you and follow you. And like you said, not only are you a mother, not only your grandmother, you are a great grandmother. So you are blessed to see the generations of your
Yes.
family.
Hmm.
And as you're able to give that information to them, you are literally direct from the source. You're being a blessing to generations. What's that, 3 generations down? Like, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I feel blessed that I'm able just to sow into their lives, to be available
Mm-hmm.
for them to
Mm-hmm.
see me. I remember, with my grandparents, they had experienced so much that they were so quiet and so
Mm-hmm.
reserved. And even though when they were around, they didn't get involved with the children. They
Gotcha.
were ministered to, but they
Mm.
didn't minister to others. They give you a hug, and then that was, I'm 83 years old, so we went to a children's room. Today, the children
Right,
are in the room with the adults.
right, right, right.
So I wanted to be a present grandparent. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be somebody who they will remember, all right,
Yeah.
who had contact with them. And oh yes, I remember some of my great grandchildren call me Gigi, and my grandchildren call me Nana. And I tell them I answer to both. I, I
Mm-hmm.
love you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that. I
yeah,
love that. Dr. Joyce, you are such a wealth of just information, and I appreciate you today just coming and sharing a little bit on the podcast,
hmm,
and being a part of the anthology. I am so excited for people to be able to get their hands on the book and to be able to read your chapter. And now, like, we're listening to the podcast, I hope that they're able to read your chapter with new eyes and
yes,
understanding who you are and the standpoint where you're coming from. A woman who has dedicated her life to learning, right? Who
yes,
has dedicated her life to living out loud and who has dedicated her life to leaving a legacy.
yes,
Oftentimes, when we talk about self care for a lot of people, and this is not wrong, right? Self care is very inward focused, as it should be. But I can honestly say that this is the first time that I've had a talk with someone and their idea of self care is to get what I can get so I can pour it back out. I
yes.
think that it is absolutely amazing. Like, that's the
Mhm.
mindset. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I want you to tell the people, if anybody wanted to get in contact with you, how would they be able to contact you?
Well, I have an email page. It's Joyce Mallory Books at gmail.com. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
also on Instagram, which is Mallory Books at Instagram.com.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Joyce Mallory, well, it's Joyce dot Mallory 84. I'm on Earthlink.
Okay.
Not Earthlink, LinkedIn. All right.
LinkedIn.
I don't have Earthleak. Uh,
Gotcha.
and I also just want to encourage people, those readers and the people who are listening, um, put your health and your needs and your sanity. Don't put it at the bottom of the list.
Mm-hmm.
Put it at the top of the list. Because
Yes.
if you are not well, if all of those things are not working in your in your behalf, then you're going to not be able to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things, um, you know, I started changing my diet. I make sure, I eat well. As the weather gets warmer, I'll be doing some exercise like walking,
Mm-hmm.
and those kinds of things. Um, but those are part of being self-ish.
Yes.
I like that
Mhm.
word.
Yes.
Considering yourself so that you can consider others.
I love it. Thank you. And there you have it, folks, straight from Dr. Joyce Mallory's mouth. Wonderful golden nuggets. Listen, if you have not already gotten a book, I need you to run to Amazon right now and I need you to look up Girl Be Selfish, lessons and tools that help you live your best life and your more fulfilled life and help you to embrace your rhythm of self-care and all of those things. Make sure that you go ahead to Amazon right now, grab a copy of the book. Do me a favor, as you're reading, go ahead and leave a review of the book. Buy one for your family and friends. But we are so excited for the impact that this book is going to have,
Yes.
not just on this generation, but as Dr. Joy said, this is our way of leaving a legacy for
Yes.
generations to come. So thank you all so much for watching and listening today on the Girl Be Selfish podcast. Stay tuned. We have so many more episodes that are coming. We have some more amazing authors who are going to be coming and dropping nuggets and some more, many more goodies. Make sure that you subscribe on all of the platforms. Tell somebody about the podcast and share. But until next time, I hope that you all are well and remember to stay selfish. Bye, everybody.